It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. That's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We'd love definitely.
And pace.
With Ease US makes studio quality voiceovers for your videos online in over 149 languages and dialects. Never been easier to create professional grade videos and voiceovers. Try it today at easeus.com. That's EASEUS.com. Ease US.
Hi, I'm Mitch, the co-founder of Cake, a sexual health and wellness company designed for today and designed for you. Yes, you. The entire product line can be found at hellocake.com, and it's also available in every Walmart near you.
Send money abroad in just a few steps with Remitly. Sign up with your email, enter an amount, choose how your loved ones receive the money, enter your recipient's information, select a payment method, hit send, and relax. Download the Remitly app today.
Tervis is all about staying hydrated. Each product is built to last and comes in endless designs to match your personality. Stay refreshed and express yourself with Tervis. Visit tervis.com today and find your perfect tumbler.
Looking for tickets to the hottest shows, games, and events? Ticket Liquidator is your one-stop shop for great prices, no hassles, and guaranteed tickets. Whether it's sports, theater, or concert, for the best seats at the biggest events, start with Ticket Liquidator today at ticketliquidator.com. Ticket Liquidator. The You Like Air 3, launched in 2023, ushers in a new era of sapphire ice cooling technology, offering nearly painless hair reduction in just 3 weeks. That's ULIKE.com. You Like.
It is the Pete Sousa Show. Scotty, this is a weird color. Look at this. Come look. Come look. It looks like it's just something with the camera. Because it looks great. You see it? It's kind of like, what's that Coldplay song? But they were all yellow. Am I yellow to you? Right? The Pete Sousa Show. We're back, and we want to iron out any kind of technical difficulties. That's why I'm having Scotty jump right in on this, because we got a big fish today, to say the least. Call him a whale. We got Stephen Jones joining us. Obviously, the Cowboys losing yesterday. Talk a little football with Stephen. We want to talk more about his father, because today is Jerry Jones' birthday, which is just – it's a special occasion for all football fans and all NFL football fans, if you want to be real, because I'm not quite sure that anyone has done more for the game and for the league since 90 than Jerry Jones. So to talk to Steven about Jerry on his birthday is just it's a terrific accomplishment for this show. And you got to thank Chris Visser, Tad Caper, who is basically he's the PR, like, I don't just want to say guy. He's like the PR magnet, right, for the Dallas Cowboys. Tad actually went to Richmond when I was in the NBA. I worked with Tad. He worked for the Cavs for a long time. So he kind of has some familiarity there. So we got it through, and we got Stephen Jones talking to us this morning. That'll be at 10:30. Prior to that, I mean, there is one big story that really has me I'm fascinated by the James Franklin story. And there's a real good reason for that. I think a lot of other people are fascinated as well. When you look at his record over the past 3 years, 11-2, 10-3, 13-3. And that 13-3, by the way, is like, let me get my Daniel Stark thing right here because we love Daniel Stark. That 13-3 ended up with a loss in the Orange Bowl that could have put you in the national championship game. He's won the Cotton Bowl, the Rose Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl. And he's been there for a long time, right? There's no question about that. And I was not. I don't think the average person was shocked about this firing when you lose 3 straight. They actually set a record with the last 2 losses because never before has a team in the FBS been favored by more than 20 points and has lost both of those games back to back, UCLA and Northwestern, coming on the heels of like just missing at Oregon. And I think that's the scary part for coaches all over the country. Now, what's not scary is, $50 million plus for a buyout. Like there's really no real tears being shed for James Franklin today. But this move lets us know that never before has the stove been hotter, has the vice been tighter. It is just the pressure it's just unthinkable for these coaches. And I texted, and I'll say his name because I want to have him on here to talk about it later. Dave Steckel was a defensive genius and was a defensive coordinator for Gary Pinkel's teams at Mizzou. And I'm talking about the real good teams, the teams that were knocking on the door of that 4-team college football playoff. A Missouri team that was in the SEC just absolutely catching bodies. They were an elite SEC football team for about 3-4 years there. And Steck is just a great dude. And he recruited that area in Pennsylvania big time. Like he recruited Saquon, right, to go to Mizzou, but Saquon, of course, goes to Penn State. And through all the coaching conferences and, Steck is a lifer, just retired, calls games now for ESPN. That's how I've gotten to know him. But I wanted to get his opinion about this morning. And I was like, what do you think, honestly, about the James Franklin firing? And he says it's 100% BS. And he says, look at his track record. And when you look at his track record, it's really good. But he said something that really jumped out at me, which about 3 weeks ago, Shahan Jeyarajah, or maybe it was right after Penn State lost to Oregon. Shahan Jeyarajah, obviously friend of the show, CBS Sports. He tweeted out, hey, a lot of folks around Penn State are up in arms about James Franklin this morning. Truth be told, I think they would be surprised just to see how that program would do. I'm paraphrasing, of course, with another coach. Like Penn State is not Michigan, right? They're just not. And there was something special about the Joe Pa run, right? It was a boutique operation. It really felt like that. It was a boutique operation on steroids, right? That was a spider web that touched all over the country with dominance, right? In 86, when you win a national championship, in 95, when you do it again, or 94, you go undefeated and they just beat everybody up. And then it seemed like every time you turn around, I think there was a national title too there in the early 80s when they beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. But like that was past. Okay. So as much as Penn State wants to tap into that tradition, and remember, a lot went on, like a lot of ugly things went on, right? And, Bill O'Brien steps in and he kind of navigates that huge mess, right? But then O'Brien willingly goes back to the NFL. And then James Franklin comes over from Vanderbilt. And first couple of years were rough, and that's cool, right? Like, it's interesting how you do get a grace period in college football your first or second year. But then once you start to hit it, the threshold for patience it really starts to lower because you've showed us what you can do, and there's a new standard. And James Franklin, with these 3 straight losses, which are mind-numbing, right? Like, it's not out of control that he gets fired after this. It's just not. When you consider the buyout and the fact that they were ranked 3rd in the country just a few weeks ago, and the fact that they were basically in college football's version of the Final Four last year, it is a little shocking. It is a little shocking. And what Steckel said to me this morning was, this is Bo Pelini at Nebraska all over again. And I thought, wow, that's super interesting because, Nebraska, again, not quite understanding its identity in the new age of college football, right? Bo Pelini did really well at Nebraska. And, it wasn't enough. And there was some personal stuff. I think we all remember that back before every goddamn thing got leaked. But, I remember there was Bo Pelini, I think, was leaked at like a banquet or something. And he was speaking not very highly of boosters, or I forget what it was, but it wasn't a good look. And Nebraska's struggled really since. Now that brings me to who will coach Penn State next. And if I had $100 in my pocket, which I don't now, but I should, because I have to go to a golf tournament later today. And if there's at all wagers, I will be paying out all of them because I'm terrible at golf. A little Rogue Media Network golf outing. Myself, Corey Dickman, David Smoke, the great David Smoke, and John Valade, another one of our big-time partners over here at the Rogue Media Network. And I'll tell you what it is before I leave. We should give it a little promo because it's a really good deal. But let me get back to Matt Rule right now. Matt Rule, head coach of Nebraska. Okay. Matt Rule walked on at Penn State, played for Joe Paterno. Matt Rule is a football guy and a Northeastern football guy. He took a Temple program. And let me tell you, I didn't want to go to Temple, right? And the scholarship offers for me as a young football player, I mean, at the Division I level, they were not like, I wasn't overwhelmed. A lot of 1AA at the time, some smaller D1s, Temple one of them. I don't think so. It's in North Philly. The team was not very good. The coach at the time was Ron Dickerson. And, the only reason I would have wanted to go there was because I would have been able to compete with guys at Miami. But it was just my mom kind of got involved and said, you're going to Richmond. So, but that's the example of like where Temple was. They were just an eyesore for college football, especially in the Philadelphia area. Matt Rule comes around, we know the story, resurrects the entire program, comes to Baylor, resurrects the program there, okay? Has struggled since somewhat. I mean, Nebraska's doing pretty well now. At Carolina, we've had this debate, and it's become an ugly one around here, especially with Bill Belichick recently. They are like two different sports, right? I think George Teague talked about that with us on Friday as well. But now Matt Rule, the idea of Matt Rule coaching at Penn State, by the way, here's the clincher for me. The athletic director at Penn State was the AD at Temple when Matt Rule completely turned that thing around. And the quote from the Athletic was, Matt loves Pat and Pat loves Matt. Like, so these two guys are tight. The ironic thing about that whole situation is like, then Matt Rule basically goes, These are very similar situations. Two benchmark programs in the 80s and 90s, right, and into the 2000s, that have flatlined for a little bit. Now, James Franklin took care of that, right? So he's got Penn State up here. And he rides off into the night with $50 million through a buyout. Matt Rule, you could say he's kind of doing what James Franklin did at Penn State, at Nebraska right now. But I can promise you there will be nothing like Matt Rule. I got to imagine this is like the North Star for Matt Rule. This is it for him, to coach at Penn State, to win a national championship, to bring back the glory, right, to Penn State, to forget about this guy, James Franklin. I know he's from Langhorne, Pennsylvania, but this out-of-town guy, he's not a Penn State guy. Matt Rule's a Penn State guy, right? Matt Rule's a Penn State guy. He went to Penn State. He walked on. And he's an amazing college coach. And he does, what he did at Baylor from a PR perspective and from a performance perspective, you couldn't have asked. He was sent from on high. He really was. Unfortunately, everybody around here likes to crap on him and say he was looking to leave from the moment he got here. All things being equal, I'm from Philadelphia. When I got to Waco, I was looking to leave too. But hey, here I am, right? Things happen. Life is good. Sometimes God has plans for you, right? Scotty, what do you got?
Do you want the odds?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's Scotty Swingler, everybody. He produces the show and does a hell of a job. Now, he wants to know if I want to see the odds. Yeah, I want to see the odds if I can see the goddamn odds. I can't see that. What do we got? What do we got? Let me actually pull up our show, but you take us through them.
Okay, you got Matt Rule is the favorite at 3-1.
3-1.
That's pretty good.
Right?
Bill O'Brien at 4-1.
Well, let me mute you here.
I think that would surprise me. Kurt Signetti at 6-1. I think there are some legitimate questions about why he would leave what's happening in Indiana right now for that, but I think you have to call him. Lane Kiffin, Manny Diaz, surprising to me. Urban Meyer, I couldn't see him doing that after winning national championships at Ohio State, but who knows? Joe Brady, Will Stein, Brent Key, John Gruden, and Matt Campbell round out those odds there.
Okay, who's your long shot?
What do you mean when you ask me that?
I mean, give me a guy either that's at the very bottom of that board or someone who's not on the board.
Well, I texted you that I thought Key and Campbell were good candidates for this job. And the other guy, I think Alex Golish at USF.
Yeah.
I think that would be a really good phone call if Penn State wants to get a younger, energized identity. Something you've talked about is some of these older coaches.
Yes.
Dabo, Gundy, Franklin, whether it's the NIL or the portal or they've lost something.
Yeah,
here.
I agree.
And so a younger guy like Alex Golish could be a solution for
that.
I
think you cross Urban Meyer off that list because
I
of what
agree.
we just talked about.
I agree.
I think you can, unfortunately, although I would love to see it, and I know the guy brings great energy, John Gruden, just because of, John Gruden's a great hire at let's say, I don't want to say Florida, but maybe that's it. John Gruden's interesting because with all that we've learned in this new age, does he have just the fire to want to do it, right? To want to recruit and deal with this madness nonstop with NIL. That's more of a question on him. But everybody else, Bill O'Brien, I don't like him coming back. I don't. That to me is uninspiring.
I would cross Sig off the list too.
You would?
Yeah.
Why?
What can Penn State provide for him right now that Indiana is not? And it's a question. I'm not making a declarative
and I don't
statement.
know. I don't know the finances as well, but I would imagine financial.
I watched some videos on this over the weekend. I wish I could cite the guy. There was one guy specifically. I might have sent this video to you. I sent it to a couple of my friends.
No, I didn't.
I sent it to Ganaway for sure. What I'm hearing around the weekend is that Indiana is getting so much financial commitment right now for this football program that they don't know if Penn State would actually be a significant jump specifically in that regard.
Well, there you have it.
But who knows? I mean, I don't know. Scotty B points out something I've texted you. Matt Rule isn't good against ranked opponents, though. That's legitimate. James Franklin's downfall at Penn State was not his record, right?
Yeah.
It was his losses in top 10 games.
Yeah.
Matt Rule does thus far in his career have a similar issue. I like Matt Rule. Everybody who's watched me talk ever knows that I admire Matt Rule and think he's great. But I do wonder if he's too much of a likeness to Franklin.
No,
similar
I don't
age,
think he can get caught up in that.
Similar age, similar, I would say, kind of ethos, and have a reputation for building these good programs, but not winning the big one.
Look, that's a clean comparison to make, and very fair. I think that Matt Rule just has more pop, more personality. And, James Franklin falls into my Ryan Clark category. By the way, Ryan Clark, man, I mean, what a roller coaster. It's an apology a month, dude.
Yeah, it is.
I'm just saying it's exhausting for me, okay? But this is my point. If Ryan Clark was a teammate of mine or a coworker of mine, I think I would really, really like him.
Yeah.
If James Franklin was my coach, I think I would really, really like him. There's something about like James Franklin at face value that there's nothing warm and cuddly about him. And my point is, when you kick the can down the road for a while with the accountability, right, acceptance, and then the losses catch up to you, you're screwed. Yeah, and so I don't think, and this goes back to our conversation about Matt Rule being a Baylor, right? If he still was, like the stuff that Dave Aranda gets caught up in. Like there's part of the package that these guys don't have that I think Matt Rule absolutely has it all. I really do. I think that Matt Rule has the PR, the performance base.
No, he nails that. Boosters love him. Recruits love him. Not every player who's played for him loves him, but a lot of them do. I think especially when Phil Snow's on his staff, he's shown he fields a really competitive top 25 defense pretty regularly. But he hasn't won the big one. And granted, part of that is he was only at Baylor 3 years. He's only been at Nebraska 3 years.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, something else that's coming around this weekend, and we might transition to this, we need to take a break in about 6 or 7 minutes, is I think Kurt Cignetti has created unfair expectations for college coaches, whereas Matt Rule has kind of this reputation of 3 or 4 year program builder. Cignetti's done it in a year and a half at Indiana, and they're number 3 in the country today.
Well, that and that brings us back to the point in my conversation with Dave Steckel, right? Things are changing so fast. And somebody asked me, I was doing the John Morris's show, and Gary Baxter, former Baylor great, and Baltimore Raven, NFL great. He, we were talking about some of these new deals where these, these big time monies are basically staking these conferences and these teams, right? And he wanted to know who's the winner in all this, who wins. Honestly, man, the players win. The players are getting paid now. They have a lot of control and a lot of power. The coaches and their power is slipping. It's just slipping right through their fingers. And old school coaches cannot stand it. But the fact of the matter is, like, this is the truth. Like, if James Franklin, mind you, he doesn't have the resume of Joe Paterno with the national championships. But if James Franklin, and there's a different scenario and a different day and age where James Franklin just takes it on the chin for these 3 straight weeks, turns around, wins 4 more games, makes a bullshit bowl, and then we're back to business again next year. And Penn State is in the college football playoff. But like the lack of grace these guys are getting because of guys like Cignetti, right, in your own conference, is just has taken the power away from these coaches. And, that's why there's so much shock, I think. Another guy, too, who I think people are talking about, 2 people that weren't on that list, Al Golden okay, which would be a surprise, and UC is a weak hire, Scotty, and Mike Elko too, which Mike Elko would make some sense. I mean, what he's doing right now at A&M is extremely impressive. And I want to play a quick game with you now, Scotty. Let's switch over. Bring yourself up because I wanted to surprise you with this because I'm not sure you know.
Oh, Lord.
Although you did do this.
I don't always like surprises. As the
Well, you did.
producer,
Please
but-
bear with me with Terrence last night, so you should.
Well, I was actually flying solo last night.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you maybe should have known this. You should have called me, dude. I was in town.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Next time.
What's the spread for TCU Baylor? Give me the line. Oh, great. You don't know.
I saw a tweet and I forgot. I know TCU was favored, which surprised me. I think it's TCU by 2.5.
I got Baylor. I have Baylor -3.
Oh, I saw a
Let me look
tweet
one more time.
about TCU being favored. So that's either shifted or the tweet I saw was wrong.
So we have Baylor -3. Let me make sure.
Okay.
I'm
That's a good line. That's a good line.
Oh, it is. Why do you say that? Why do you say that's a good line?
Because that's about what I expect to happen. I think it's Baylor by a field goal in that game. I think that's
No, it's TCU -2.5. Okay, so you're right.
he won the trivia contest. I won a prize.
That game is an 11 a.m. start on ESPN2.
I won a prize.
You did win a prize.
Okay, then I would bet Baylor on that, but
Okay.
not going to do that because that would double my disappointment if we lose.
All right. Anything else you want to get to in this first segment before we get a chance to talk with the great Stephen Jones?
Yeah, we got about 2 minutes. I just, I didn't have time because I was preparing for our big guest to pull the video replay like I did last week with Belichick. But you roasted me for 2 takes preseason, and that was that Georgia Tech and Indiana were going to make the playoff. I particularly remember you raising your voice about how Indiana couldn't do it again. And I feel very good today, not only in the fact that they beat Oregon, but they beat Oregon with dominant defensive play. Oregon had to get a defensive touchdown to stay in that game. Their only other test preseason on the schedule that looked significant was at Penn State. And obviously now that's looking like, I'm not going to say it's going to be anytime you walk into Happy Valley, it's not going to be an easy win, but it certainly looks way more of an Indiana win than it did 2 months ago.
Yeah.
They will probably go undefeated into the conference championship game. What happens from there? Who's to say? I mean, Ohio State's really great. The playoff's going to be really great, but this is not just a one-hit wonder, Pete.
No, I mean, look.
This is, and in fact, I think the quote from Cignetti last year that applies even more this year with that Penn State job opening is, why would I leave Indiana? We're building the next superpower here.
And you think they have the resources to do it. You just mentioned people with deep pockets there.
Well, you know that they've got a great alumni base and they're so big on giving towards basketball. It's not a surprise when they finally get a successful football program, they're going to get behind it. It's a big deal.
Well, the issue is with a school like that, and Indiana being such a hardcore basketball school, when they do start to introduce that $25 million cap, you're going to have to give a ton of money to basketball. That's just how it's going to be. So football could get a little weird there, but then again, the NIL stuff is wide open.
You say that, and yet my counterpoint, and then we do need to take a break, is that when that cap hits, if this football program has been to 2 playoffs, won a Big Ten championship, competing for a national championship, the basketball program's down. Yes, basketball will always be more important at Indiana than most schools, but which one of those sports makes your school money, Pete? The football team being a national championship contender is going to make your school way more money than your basketball program. So they will.
But there's a major conflict there because everybody knows Indiana because of basketball.
I know that.
You know?
I know that.
There's no more.
You're going to love my
school.
shirt. I ordered an Indiana shirt. I'm going to wear it on the show Friday if it's delivered on time. You're going to love my shirt. That's a teaser. That's called a tease, folks.
Well,
Come back Friday
on this because you're the expert. What is it about? Is it Cignetti? Is it the players? What is this, dude? Like what? Why?
Cignetti has become my favorite coach in college football, I think.
Why is he so special?
I don't know. I would love to get in that locker room and find out, because he strikes you as like kind of a hard ass, but like kind of affable and like weird too. Right. I don't know, but he's doing everything right. Like, he's doing everything right. And he's a no-nonsense guy on the sideline. He's passionate, fierce, energetic. I love it.
All right, well, I've talked a lot about Dave Steckel today, and so we are going to have him on, I think, later this week. So maybe he can tell us, because I want to talk to him about all this coaching madness. All right, quick break, and we might be right back, because when Stephen Jones gets on, that's when we get on, right? We'll be back after this. The Pete Sousa Show, presented by Slovacics.
Bubble allows you to make it real and for it to actually work. So I feel like Bubble bridges that gap and being able to give people the opportunity to make their ideas come to life really quickly too. I love that I can sit down and build something the way that I think it should be built and have the control over it.
Bubble turns ideas into fully scalable apps. Try Bubble today.
Hi, I'm Jo from Face Theory. You're going to want to have a specific...
The Pete Sousa Show, presented by Slovacics, rolls on right now with a very special guest. Stephen Jones, the co-owner, executive vice president, CEO, and director of player personnel for the Dallas Cowboys. It is also his father's birthday today, the great Jerry Jones. We wanted to see if we could chat with Stephen just a little bit, track him down, and get some thoughts, some memories. And here he is, providing us with the gift on his dad's birthday. Thanks so much, Stephen. How you doing?
Oh, great, Pete. Great to be on, and happy birthday to my dad. I hadn't gotten to talk to him yet this morning. Obviously, we were hoping for a win yesterday to celebrate today, but didn't quite work out for us. Hats off to the Panthers, but really great to celebrate my father today, and happy birthday to him.
Yeah, well, good. We can play him this, and this will be your happy birthday for him. So this is perfect.
Absolutely.
I want to get into the makeup of your dad, because I think, look, we're on the phone right now, but like I'm from Philadelphia. Okay, I have an Eagles helmet right here in the studio. Now, you would think the last person that I would become a fan of is Jerry Jones, but your father and what he's done for the NFL. And the more you learn about him as a man, it's undeniable how special he is. And I want to go back to his roots for you. I know you weren't around at the current time, but he's growing up. You know, your grandparents own a grocery store. How much of your father's determination and work ethic today were born in that grocery store in Arkansas so many moons ago?
Well, there's no question. It's a big part of it. Obviously, he gives so much credit to my grandfather, Pat Jones, who put Pat's Supermarket together. He grew up in the, back in the recession and the Depression. If he was more than a recession, it was a depression. And, has so much respect for work ethic, for being innovative in ways to provide for your family and create money in a time where it's very difficult to do. And the best thing he could leave with anybody was work ethic. And, he had Jerry greeting at grocery stores, in a suit with a tie when he was, 6 years old. So Jerry learned right away work ethic. He learned marketing. He learned smiling and shaking people's hand and the value of relationships with people, because that's what my grandfather was. He knew everybody in his area, in the town there, and they all wanted to come and support his market and what they were about. And, he took the ball and ran with it from there. But the biggest thing, he could have learned from my grandfather was his work ethic and, his way to appreciate relationships and grow a business.
And then, growing a business, that moves into becoming a winner at Arkansas. I love Barry Switzer, and I never knew this, says this has to be a record. Your father was the only guy who started in the backfield, right, one year, and the next year he's playing offensive line on a team that wins the championship. That right there lets you know your father will do anything to win. But also, I think from a self-esteem and a confidence standpoint, something happened when Arkansas won that championship, and your father has carried that through his entire life, buying the Cowboys, success with the Cowboys. Can you explain that, like what that did for him?
Yeah, I think there's no question. He talks about that to this day when he talks to our players. He always says there's two kinds of football. One is football, one isn't. He goes, when you're a running back, a quarterback, a receiver, a DB, a linebacker, a safety, he goes, that's the fun part of football. He goes, then there's where the real men work, and where you really earn a keep is in the offensive line. And he tells the story to this day about wanting to hang him up when his coach came to him and said, "Hey, we want to move you from fullback to guard," which was a pulling guard. And I think soaking wet, he was about 180 pounds, and I think he even played in the Cotton Bowl, the national championship game, at about $170. So, it was an eye opener, but he had some great advice, from his mentors up at Arkansas that told him that old redhead Frank Broyles, there were hundreds of kids wanting to play football, and if he didn't want to make the move, he'd probably seen the last of the playing field. And he buckled up and did it. And I had so much respect for the people who play, in the trenches, and certainly taught him a lot about life. And going back to what you said about winning, the year before they were 5-5 and pretty much changed out one starter, and the next year they came back and beat a good Tulsa team, and then never gave up points again, and went on to beat Texas down in Austin, and just had a hell of a run and won that game in the Cotton Bowl against Nebraska. And guys like Jimmy Johnson and Barry Switzer and Kenny Hatfield, Doug Dickey, the list goes on, changed those men's lives, winning a championship, and they can never take it away from them. And forevermore, they went down in Arkansas as champions. And certainly he's carried that with him, and he's all about he's not about just showing up, he's about winning.
Yeah, and that winning, for all the men you just mentioned, it seems like it served as a springboard for success. But in your father's case, he starts to take risks business-wise, and he talks openly about this. Obviously he had those nerves of steel, but at some point he really couldn't hide it. He's talking to, creditors. His hands are shaking. I mean, there were tough times for you guys as a family coming up. Did that trickle down to you guys, to you, your sister, and your brother? Did you know, hey, like we're in a bit of a pressure cooker here. Dad's trying to make it, and it hasn't quite happened yet?
Well, the biggest thing that trickled down to us, and I think to this day, if we're known for anything, it's our, we don't feel entitled. It's work ethic. And certainly there's no question we got it from him and my mother. Her side of the family is the same way. Tremendous workers, grew up in the Depression, made the best of things. And, at the end of the day, everything's about going to work every day and putting your best foot forward. And, he did a good job at not letting us feel any of the economic pressure when we were really young, but he was instilling that work ethic, that if you have a passion for something and you want to be the best, then you got to go to work every day to achieve it. And certainly that came through. The best story of all, though, is, as much as he loves ball and ended up in it, he was, I know he was trying to buy the San Diego Chargers when he was 23 and couldn't rub two nickels together, but he loved football. And a lot of people say, well, why didn't you coach, Jerry? And he said at that time, he said they weren't making any money. He said, greed overcame me and I wanted to go make a lot of money. And I didn't think I could do it as a coach. He said, if I'd have known what we're paying him today, I probably would have gone on to be a coach. But in all seriousness, he loved the game of football, but he also loved entrepreneurship. He loved creating value. He loved the challenge. He loved hard work. And certainly that bled through into myself, my brother and sister, in terms of our involvement and how we've all, worked together throughout this process. And certainly hats off to Jerry and my mother, for instilling that work ethic and instilling, the competitiveness and, the will to want to succeed. I give them credit.
What was that conversation like? Because, there was a flirtation with the Dolphins that would have been just a small part of the franchise. And you mentioned, the Chargers. When he says, hey, like he reads that article about Bum Bright, I love that too. It takes me back, right? We're not always on our phones or whatever. You and your father, you're on vacation, and there he reads that article. Do you remember the first real conversation you had with him where he said,
"Oh, well,
I want to buy the Cowboys"?
Absolutely. I was we had been to a gas conference. I was just out of school. I was a chemical engineer and getting in the oil and gas business. And we had been at a gas conference in San Diego. And he said, hey, let's take a little day break. He said, let's go to Mexico. We went to Cabo, and he knew I liked to deep sea fish. He couldn't handle it because he didn't, he got seasickness. So he let me go alone. And that's when he read the article. I came back and he said, in the morning, we're going to Dallas. And I said, well, what's the reason for the stop in Dallas? Because we were based out of Little Rock and Fort Smith. His oil business was, and he was in the process of selling it. He was going to sell his production and everything, and knew he was going to have some money at this point versus where he was at 22 when he was trying to buy the Chargers and borrow all the money. But he said, we're going to go through Dallas. I just read where the Cowboys may be for sale, and I want to stop through there. And he said, this will be a good little learning experience. And I'll never forget meeting with Mom. And he said he was going to sell the team. I don't think he gave Jerry a lot of credence at the moment, but I'll never forget that. And then, the rest is history. We started proceeding to buy the team. And, but he read about it in Mexico and Cabo San Lucas, and went through Dallas on the way back. And before we knew it, we owned the Cowboys, and I thought I was going to spend my life in the oil fields being an engineer and drilling gas wells, and ended up doing contracts and being a part of the Cowboys and selling suites and sponsorships, and never would have thought that was going to be the my storyline. But and I'm sure Jerry and Charlotte have I'm not sure. I know they have a similar story, but a great run there.
And one of the best, but by the way, you're a great son on his birthday, to not mention what he has mentioned before is that he was hungover, right in Cabo. That's why he stayed back. So he was. Yeah. You're
We've been to the old giggling marlin, and he was being a good father, teaching me how to hang upside down like a marlin and take tequila shot.
So you guys, and that story right there, I think, watching the most recent of the documentaries, The Gambler and His Cowboys, so well done on Netflix. I'm watching it with my fiance, born and raised in Flower Mound, right? Double Oak woman. And she turns to me during the documentary and she's like, I like him so much more now, talking about your father. And that's the best part about that, is your father is always so authentic. But one of the things that I think really draws people in is his real true commitment to his family, to his wife, to his kids, and saying, not only are we going to do this, right? We're going to try to climb Everest, but we're going to do it together. What is that like when you guys are working together, that closed fist, that hand that can do so much good stuff together? as opposed to, and honestly, I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody, but then I look, at the Bus family. They just couldn't keep it together like you guys have. What has been the secret sauce for you guys to work together so well and have such great success?
Well, I'd start with, to me, it's not surprising, when people say, well, I never knew Jerry was a family. I mean, I've always known that, and that's always been, what he's all about. He'd come back, he'd be working in Oklahoma City, really trying to make it and do big things. And he'd come back and he'd coach my football games, my brother's football games. It was always all about family to him. And that was really, why he wanted to do it. I think he had two reasons. He wanted to provide, one, to his family, but two, he wanted to show us, how hard he was willing to work, and he wanted that work ethic to rub off on us. I think a little bit he got an unfair deal with the media, because when he came down, everybody was, a little bit couldn't believe somebody from Arkansas had bought their Cowboys and then had the audacity to be the one who let, with all due respect and respect every step of the way, let Coach Landry go. And but he felt like that was the best interest of the franchise and the organization. And Coach Landry had one hell of a run. But, from that point forward, I think the media always had a little jaded way of how they were portraying Jerry. But I'm so thrilled, and I get that between the Landman scene and then followed up by the docuseries. I think the real truth has come out about Jerry, and by the way, it's so authentic and it's so true about what he stands for and what he's about as a husband, as a father, as a family man, and in general about a man who cares about other people, and whether it's his own players and coaches, whether it's other people he runs into in his journey. He's always been had a big heart and been very giving, and a good way toward, if you will, the world. So he's just I think it's so accurate. And as I said, he's just an authentic a man who enjoys life, who enjoys challenges, and enjoys competing.
A couple more questions for you. I know I say this to guests, I know you got a busy day. I know that you have a busy day, so don't let me keep you too much longer, but I do have a couple more things I'm curious about. You talked about your dad being out there. Some of the B-roll from the documentary is amazing. I mean, he's on Nightline, and Sam Donaldson is like coming at his neck, calling him Jones. And I'm thinking like, wow, like that's something. People were really spun out about the Landry firing and like this new guy coming over, taking over the team. How did he hold his head high during all of that public scrutiny? Because he really did go out there and take all the arrows.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I just think he was so driven to succeed. He as he said, he packed his bag for good when he came down for the press conference. And my mother, being the wonderful lady she is, just figured out how to get the rest of us. I was out of college, so for the most part, we were handling ourselves, but she sure got his stuff. And, as they say, they burned all the bridges behind him, and he knew there was no turning back. And, there were rough moments that we would share as a family, but he never let them know that, that he might be having an off day or something like that. But we literally, the first 18, 24 months, Jerry and I, we wouldn't get, the hotel was right down the street. We wouldn't get to the hotel till 2 or 3 in the morning. We'd be back at it at 6. And there was just no turning back. And he had a passion for it. And no matter what the challenges were, he was up for them. And, in his mind, he was going to get it figured out. And, the other thing I always had respect for was, regardless of what a media person or a writer might say about him, he never held a grudge. He had thick skin and understood they were having to do their job. But, over time, he managed to win the majority of them over. He still had and still does have a few of them that are his critics, but he understands that, he embraces that, and moves forward, and feels good about each morning waking up to a new challenge.
It's I love how you mentioned that, because he seems like someone that has he seems like someone that's dealt with therapy to make himself better. I mean, he is so self-aware, whether that's natural or whether, like me, I go to a therapist, like whatever that is, it's very real, and he's very self-aware. And he talks about buying the Cowboys, and he gets emotional talking about it. Like, I had danced with the devil when I bought the Cowboys, and it took a toll, and maybe it kind of mentally shifted me a little. And now you enter the fray, as a capologist early on, and then in personnel. Was there a moment for you when you started to work with your dad, like in real fiery situations, where you were like, oh boy, like this isn't dad anymore. This is Jerry, and we work together, and he has a passion like I've never seen in the role as a dad.
Yeah, I mean, it goes all the way back to when I had some of my trials and tribulations as a teenager, whether it was my first bad episode having a drink and he had to work through that with me, whether it was, having a bad incident at school. We had our fiery moments, but I will say this, when we have them now, and we've had a couple in front of, our executive team and different situations, it gets everybody's attention. And, he always told me from, day one, don't be that, he said, I don't need a bobblehead dog around me. That old dog people used to have in their car that just nods yes. Yeah. Every time you hit a bump or something. And he said, if you feel strongly about something, then stand up. And he goes, we may go toe to toe, but he said, I'll respect you more for it. And certainly you'll feel good about your relationship with me in a better way for it. If, we're not always going to agree. And never forget, we had one of my favorite guys to ever come through the door here as a coach was Bill Parcells. And his number one thing, and he looked forward early and often with me, was to have confrontation. And he goes, you can always tell a lot about a person in terms of how they handle confrontation. And Jerry's not a big proponent of confrontation, but he certainly believes that when you do have confrontation, how you handle that and how you work through it is a big part of a relationship you have with a person.
Yeah, this is such great stuff. Just one more for you. Your father, right? If I were to ask you to complete this sentence, like, Jerry is happiest when what?
Jerry's happiest when he's trying to figure out how to win. And he loves, a big problem. And he loves figuring out how to solve it. And that's when he's his happiest, working and, figuring out, how to come out on the right end of a problem. And whether it's work, whether it's whatever the issue is, he wants to, that's when he's his happiest, is when he's figuring and working and, trying to figure out, how to win.
Does it surprise you that, everyone, it seems like, people get so upset, whether it's like the Micah thing or another personnel decision where like everybody's like, oh, we're so mad at Jerry, and then it always comes back around. Like people always come home to him. And maybe it's because you guys brought them those Super Bowls and what you've done for the league and the stadium and Dallas as a whole. Just, you've really helped the city. But I do find it fascinating that, people really struggle to hold a grudge against your father. They really do. And is that something that surprises you?
Well, at the end of the day, one thing about Jerry, he is going to go through something. He's never going to go off half-cocked. You mentioned the Micah deal. I mean, that thing evolved over weeks and months and a lot of conversations and a lot of figuring and a lot of role playing without how that looks. And I can tell you, that just didn't happen overnight. That was long process, because we have nothing but respect for Micah and what the elite player that he is. But we also understood, if the right situation arose, which it did in our opinion, to do to move forward without Micah, that could be the better situation for the Cowboys. So, I just think that's how he attacks every decision that we make as an organization, and it certainly bleeds through, down through the ranks with the Cowboys. Is everything is well thought out before the trigger is ever pulled, and that certainly was the case with Micah, but it's the case on most things, and I think that's why, at the end of the day, people migrate back toward, if you put the work into it, you put the effort into a decision, then you're going to make a good decision most of the time. You're not always going to do it, but most of the time, if you put the work into it and you put the thought process into it, and it's going to turn out in your favor. And he's always been a big believer in that, and I think that's why people migrate around to his success and have respect for his work.
How about the quote that drives your mom crazy, where he says he has a high tolerance for ambiguity? What can you make sense of that? What does that mean exactly?
No, I just think he's willing to live with the unknown. I mean, we went through half a train. We went through a full off season, a summer, and half a training camp. Without a solution to Micah, and that a lot of people want to either get that decision in the rearview mirror and get it done, and that's not him. He'll let the thing play out if he feels that's what it means, and a lot of people have a hard time existing like that. They want to, hey, let's either get this done or let's not get it done. He's willing to let something simmer out there and marinate out there until he sees an obvious answer to it. Now, don't get me wrong. If he needs to make a decision quickly and get something done quickly, he can do that as well if he feels good about it. But he's also willing to let something marinate and let the right answer come to him if he feels like that's the right way to do something. And he calls that ambiguity, when you're letting it marinate and you're waiting to make a decision.
What do you got? Anything special for his birthday today you'll do?
No, we had a big celebration Friday night, and so we all had some conflicts. Or he did as well for tonight, but we had a major celebration with all his family last Friday, so it was great to celebrate him.
Hey, Stephen, thank you for taking the time to celebrate him. He has brought myself, as just a huge NFL fan, the kid waking up watching NFL films, in the 80s, like all day long. He has brought me so much joy. So I appreciate you taking the time to share some of that legacy.
Well, I appreciate you giving me the time to share some stories, and certainly taking time on your podcast to celebrate him. Means a lot to Noah. Means a lot to him. Means a lot to our family.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Stephen. Really, have a great day.
Bye-bye.
There he goes, Stephen Jones. That's pretty cool, man. And it's, some of my friends from Philadelphia who already know that I'm a huge Jerry Jones fan, they may give me a little flack for that. But you know what? They can kick rock. Stephen Jones is awesome, and so is his dad. And I think I urge anyone really to watch that documentary because it gives context to all of this. We all should be so lucky that when we present ourselves to people, they can go through like a library of context to know why we are the way we are. But, that doc does a great job of showing us why Jerry is the way he is. And he's a special dude, man. I mean, a guy like that with balls like that, that has achieved what he's achieved and has walked through the fire. Really, really cool stuff. So lucky to have him today. We're going to wrap up the show with that. You can't go wrong. And then, I got to head over to a golf tournament. Let me tell you what this golf tournament is, because people, I think I should talk about it. Don't you, Scotty? Let's be positive here. It's called the Bootstrap Classic. Okay. It's a big deal, and it's for Startup Waco. All right. So we're making stuff happen, pulling it up by the bootstraps. Liz, you're giggling over there. Do you know what this is? She's just got different kind of boots on. Liz, did Scotty tell you? I think at some point I'd like for you to read some news stories on the show, and we can react to them because we know you'll have an opinion on them. Mm-hmm. All right, for Scotty Swingler, for the great Chris Visser, who set up that amazing interview with Stephen Jones. I'm Pete Sousa. Thanks to Silvacics. We will see you guys tomorrow.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports.
We love
Sousa Show. Sports.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me, and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is Stark.
Sousa Show. Sports.
Our professionals are not only experts in managing urgent concerns, but also in providing top-notch preventative health care. We're proud to connect pet owners to a vast network of licensed veterinary professionals, ready to address any immediate concerns. Book your first appointment today.
Nalgene Outdoor has been your trusted companion, fueling adventures and helping protect the planet. We're committed to reducing waste, improving access to clean water, and providing simple, safe, and sustainable products for you and your family. NALGENE.com. We are Rogue Media Sports.